On Christmas Eve of 2016, a man sat in a dark movie theater with his shoes stuck to the floor. Dried soda, crushed candy, the smell of stale popcorn. He and his girlfriend had shown up late, so they were jammed into a row near the front, close enough that the screen filled his entire field of vision. Around him, her whole family sat there hypnotized, enjoying their paid time off. His resting heart rate was close to 100. A few hours earlier, he had been working out of a children's playroom in her parents' house because he did not have a home of his own. That was where he took the call. His payment processor had flagged irregular activity and was freezing $120,000 of his money. For 6 months, he had $23,036 in his account. He owed his one salesman a $22,000 commission, and it was Christmas. So he sent it. That left him with $1,036. 30 days before that, a business partner had pulled $45,700 out of their shared account. That had been his life savings. Gone. He told his girlfriend he had nothing left. She told him she would sleep under a bridge with him if it came to that. Now here's the part that makes no sense. The day after Christmas, he did not cut costs. He did not get a job. He pulled out an old business credit card with a $100,000 limit left over from when he owned gyms, and he launched 6 new gyms at the same time in 6 different cities. Flights, hotels, rental cars, gas, and ad spend times 6. He was going into debt at $3,300 a day, $412 for every hour he was awake and working. Money he did not have on a card he could not pay. And he did it because he was certain about exactly one thing. He had an offer that worked. 5 years later, he wrote down what that offer was and why it worked in a book he published himself in July of 2021. It is called $100 Million Offers. His name is Alex Hormuz. The argument is one sentence. You do not have a traffic problem or a sales problem. You have an offer problem, and if you fix the offer, everything downstream of it gets easy. The first thing he tells you is that the offer is not even step 1. There is an order, and most people run it backwards. Market first, then offer, then persuasion. And people spend a decade getting better at persuasion while sitting inside a market that was never going to pay them. He puts it as the starving crowd. If you have a hot dog stand, the single most valuable thing you can own is not a better hot dog, or a better sign, or a better sales pitch. It is a starving crowd standing in front of you. So he gives 4 things to check before you build anything. Is the pain massive, not mild? Do these people actually have money to spend? Are they easy to find and target as a group? And is the market growing rather than shrinking? Look at what he picked. Gym owners in 2016. They were in real financial pain, most of them barely surviving. They had cash coming through the door every month. They were absurdly easy to target because they all sat in the same Facebook groups. And boutique fitness was expanding fast. He did not pick that market because he loved gyms. He picked it because it hit all 4. Then the second half of the same idea. Get out of the commodity business. A commodity is anything where the buyer can line up 3 options and pick on price. If somebody can compare you to 2 competitors on a spreadsheet, you have already lost. Because now the only lever either of you has is going cheaper, and going cheaper is a race that ends with both of you dead. A Grand Slam offer is one that cannot be comparison shopped. Not a better version of the thing everyone sells. A different thing, with a different name, that has no obvious shelf to sit on. If a customer can price check you in 30 seconds, you do not have an offer. You have a menu item. Which brings you to the part of this book that makes people physically uncomfortable. Charge more. Not 10% more. He means multiples. In the book, he says he priced his gym program at roughly 3 times what his most expensive competitor charged and about 32 times what his cheapest competitor charged. Most people hear that and think it is greed. He argues it is the opposite, and his reasoning is the most useful thing in the whole book. Low prices trap you. A cheap price means thin margin, which means you cannot afford to advertise, which means you cannot get enough customers, which means you cannot afford good staff, which means the service gets worse, which means people leave, which means you drop the price again to compete. That is the whole death spiral, and most small businesses are somewhere on it right now. Now flip it. A high price means fat margin, which means you can outspend everyone to get customers, hire better people, deliver a better result, and get better testimonials, which justifies the high price. And there is a second effect that has nothing to do with your bank account. It happens inside the customer's head. When somebody pays $200 for a gym membership, they show up. When somebody pays $19, they do not. And then they quit and tell everyone your gym did not work. The person who pays the most attention. Charging more does not just make you more money. It makes your clients get better results, which makes your business better, which is a genuinely strange loop. Here is what it did for him. That first 30 days on the credit card brought in just over $100,000. Within 12 months, the business was doing around $1.5 million a month. Within 24 months, it was around $4.4 million a month. He eventually licensed the system to more than 4,500 gyms across 13 countries. In 2021, he sold 66% of that business and his supplement company for $46.2 million in cash. The price was never the problem. The price was the strategy. But you cannot just charge 4 times more and hope. Something has to be worth 4 times more, and this is where the book stops being motivation and starts being a tool. Hormuz breaks value into 4 pieces, and only 4. 2 of them go on top, and you want them as high as possible. The dream outcome, meaning what the person actually wants at the end, and the perceived likelihood that they will get it, meaning how much they believe it will work for them specifically. 2 of them go on the bottom, and you want them as close to 0 as you can get. The time delay before they see a result, and the effort and sacrifice it takes them to get there. Almost everybody selling anything only ever pulls the first lever. They promise a bigger outcome, lose more weight, make more money, get more clients. Everyone is screaming about outcomes, which means nobody can hear you. And every additional promise you make actually lowers the second number, because bigger claims sound less believable. The money is on the bottom of that equation, and almost nobody goes there. Think about what you actually pay extra for. You pay Amazon, so the thing arrives tomorrow instead of in 9 days. That is time delay. You pay for the meal kit instead of the recipe because the vegetables come chopped. That is effort. You pay a lawyer instead of reading the statute yourself because you do not want to become a person who understands the statute. That is why his gym program was a 6-week challenge and not a 12-month plan. 6 weeks is a result you can see before you lose interest. And it was done for you. He handed gym owners the ads, the scripts, the sales process, the whole thing, because every step they had to figure out on their own was a place they would quit. Speed and ease are not features you throw in at the end. They are usually the entire reason someone buys. You are not selling the outcome. Everyone is selling the outcome. You are selling the shortest, easiest road to it that anyone believes. So, how do you actually build one of these? His method is almost aggressively unglamorous. Sit down and write out every single problem a customer will hit on the way to what they want. Not 3. All of them. Before, during, and after. If you sell weight loss, that list includes not knowing what to eat, hating cooking, the office donuts, being embarrassed at the gym, no time on Tuesdays, and the wedding in 6 weeks. Then you turn every problem on that list into a solution. Everyone. Then you decide how each solution actually gets delivered, whether that is a video, a phone call, a physical object, a group, or you doing it for them. Now you have a monstrous list and most of it is not worth including. So you cut. You keep the things that are cheap for you to deliver and enormously valuable to them, and you throw out the things that cost you a fortune and barely move the needle. What is left, stacked together, is the offer. Then he adds the accelerants. Scarcity, which is a real limit on how many you can take. Urgency, which is a real deadline. Bonuses, which are extra items that each solve a specific objection. And guarantees. The guarantees are the sharpest part. Money back is the weakest one. Better is the conditional guarantee, where you say, do these specific things, and if it does not work, I keep working for free until it does. That one is powerful because it quietly makes the customer commit to actually doing the work, which is usually the only reason it fails. Now, the honest limits, because your feed will not give you these. None of this is new. Guarantees, scarcity, bonuses, risk reversal. This is direct response marketing, and people were doing it a century ago. Claude Hopkins was writing about testing and guarantees back in 1923. Hormuz does not pretend otherwise. He assembled it, stress-tested it with his own money, and wrote it in language a gym owner can use on a Tuesday, which is genuinely valuable and is also not the same as inventing it. And an offer this good is a multiplier, not a rescue. If what you actually deliver is bad, a grand slam offer just gets more people through the door faster to find that out. And then you have a refund line and a reputation problem instead of a slow month. There is also a fair question sitting under his whole story. He says he made his money doing these things rather than teaching them. And he did build and sell real companies. But the company that made him rich was a business that sold a system to gym owners, which means his biggest offer was, in the end, an offer about making offers, which is exactly why the credit card story matters. Because on the 26th of December 2016, none of this was a framework or a diagram. It was a man with $1,000 to his name spending $412 an hour of borrowed money, betting everything he had left on the belief that if the offer is good enough, nothing else has to go right. It worked. That is not a promise it will work for you. It is a suggestion about where to look first.